The Los Angeles City Attorney is calling for a special election for an independent redistricting commission. His announcement comes shortly after council members were recorded in a leaked audio making explicit racial comments while trying to redraw district lines in their favor.
On Monday, Acting Council President Mitch O'Farrell stripped Gil Cedillo and Kevin De Leon of committee chairmanships and assignments.
In the interest of transparency, I can share one logistical detail on these committee assignments. As it stands now, per council rules, a council member must remain on one committee. My office is ironing out these details and will provide full communication to my colleagues later today. There is no new news regarding any resignations.
The move comes after leaked audio caught city council members making offensive comments towards Councilman Mike Bonan's adopted son. De Leon and Cedillo have refused calls to step down despite widespread condemnation that led former council president Nury Martinez to resign last week. O'Farrell said during the Monday news conference that he feels the two men should not show up at Tuesday's meeting.
At tomorrow's meeting, I look forward to discussing a number of important items on the agenda, including the election of a new city council president, charter reform, and increasing representation on the LA City Council, redistricting reform, and the formation of an independent redistricting commission.
City officials talked of redistricting reform since last week. In a press conference last Wednesday, Los Angeles City Attorney Mike Fear announced a ballot proposal that would amend the city charter to use an independent redistricting committee instead of city council members. His announcement comes shortly after the three former council members, along with Los Angeles County Federation of Labor President Ron Herrera, were heard on a leaked audio making disparaging racist comments. The audio angered many Angelenos by revealing the insider plans that the city council members had come up with to redraw district lines in their favor. Sean McDonald, a policy advisor based in Long Beach, told the California Globe, quote, "Fear said what many had wanted for a long time. As those four in the tapes proved, districting line drawings can be very sketchy and is gerrymandering on the city level. An independent commission would move that away and redraw the lines more fairly."
California is now the first state in the nation that will require social media companies to publicly post their policies on hate speech, disinformation, harassment, and extremism on their platforms. But many of these platforms are saying the new law is raising First Amendment concerns.
Back in September, Governor Gavin Newsom signed the Social Media Transparency and Accountability Act of 2021 into law. But the new law is being met with backlash and opposition by numerous social media companies. Many critics are saying that this kind of censorship is dangerous and will have severe consequences. Eric Goldman, a professor at Santa Clara University School of Law, wrote in a recent blog post, quote, "By prioritizing certain content categories, the bill tells social media platforms that they must make special publication decisions in those categories to please the regulators and enforcers who are watching them." The Chamber of Progress and Industry coalition that includes Google and Meta said that the new mandates raise many First Amendment concerns and that court challenges are being considered. Democratic Assembly member Jesse Gabriel authored Assembly Bill 587. Groups like the Anti-Defamation League have voiced their opinion of the bill. Newsom said in a statement that Californians deserve to know how these platforms are impacting our public discourse, and this action brings much-needed transparency and accountability to the policies that shape the social media content we consume every day. The law states that social media companies will have to specify how they define and identify hate speech and disinformation and the proposed punishments against violators. They are also required to submit a public semi-annual terms of service report to the California Attorney General or will face several severe penalties. Facebook, Twitter, and Google representatives were contacted by the Epoch Times but did not immediately respond to questions about the new law.
After a second failed effort to recall the Los Angeles District Attorney, the campaign is filing an injunction against the county's Registrar's office. They allege that the signature verification process was flawed.
The campaign behind the recall effort of Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon is claiming that the signature verification process was, quote, seriously flawed, resulting in substantial errors and the wrongful invalidation of many valid signatures. In a statement released last week, recallers said that their volunteer attorneys have been reviewing the invalidated signatures since September 6th. They found that 39% warrant, quote, clear, obvious, and legitimate challenges. But according to Dean Logan, the county registrar, the county's verification process followed all California laws and requirements. He said that almost 30% of the over 715,000 submitted signatures on the recall petition were, quote, found to be invalid. The recall campaign is seeking a legal remedy as early as this week.
A pipeline operator has agreed to pay $50 million to thousands of people in Southern California, including fishermen, tourism companies, and property owners. They sued in response to an offshore oil spill last year near Huntington Beach.
A proposed settlement was filed Monday in a federal court in Santa Ana between Amplify Energy Corporation with local businesses and residents. The Houston-based energy company owns the pipeline that ruptured in October 2021 and spilled 25,000 gallons of crude oil into the Pacific Ocean. Under the proposal, Amplify would pay $34 million to commercial fishermen and $9 million to coastal property owners. It would also pay $7 million to waterfront tourism operators, including businesses that provide surf lessons and leisure cruises and shops that sell swimwear and fishing bait. That comes out to a total of $50 million. The proposal also requires Amplify to install a leak detection system and provide spill training to employees, steps that the company also agreed to in a plea deal with federal authorities. Though Amplify has agreed to pay, the company contends that the leak wasn't fully their fault. Amplify alleges that ships dragged anchors across the oil pipeline, causing damage that led to the leak. A federal judge still needs to sign off on the proposal for it to take effect. A hearing is scheduled for November 16th.
California's water crisis is causing problems for tomato farmers in the state, and now inflation is also hurting their bottom line.
We pick it at the peak of freshness.
For 25 years, Aaron Barcelos has grown tomatoes in California's Central Valley. But between the crushing 3-year drought and the rising cost of growing tomatoes, Barcelos and many other farmers are feeling the impacts of a lower than average tomato harvest.
We had a little over 500 acres. We fallowed over 2,000 acres of ground that would normally go to tomatoes. We just did not have the water to go ahead and grow. And during the drought, our water triples and quadruples in price as well.
But it's just not water restrictions. Inflation hikes up costs of fuel and fertilizers for farmers. Those added costs are then reflected in consumer products.
95% of the processed tomato products consumed in the United States come right here from California's Central Valley.
These are tomatoes that become ingredients in sauces, soups, and salsas. The California Tomato Growers Association says its members produced about 14% fewer tomatoes this year than originally expected.
What makes this different is this is about our 4th year in a row of having a shorter crop than what we wanted. Ultimately, it does come down to water.
But farmers like Barcelos say tomato crop yields across the state have steadily declined over the last decade.
We are seeing hotter streaks during the summer, more extremes between cool and warm, and I don't know what an average year is anymore. Right now, we don't have any acres scheduled for tomatoes for next year. Unless tomato prices in the field get to a level where we think we have a chance of making money, we're going to go do something else with those open acres.
While this tomato season is wrapping up, farmers must soon decide if they plan to grow tomatoes again next year.
If you have a sweet tooth, Cakeland may be just the place for you. Although it's not made with the real ingredients, visitors can still enjoy the sugar rush.
Cakeland is an immersive art gallery in Los Angeles built to feel like a giant, dazzling, multi-layered cake.
So I've always been fascinated with artificial representations of things, fake cakes. I used to collect fake food when I was a kid. It just kind of fascinates me.
The lavishly decorated cakes are made entirely of artificial materials. Real sugar would cause an ant infestation.
In this venue, there's about 250 gallons that I've piped, you could see. And I think there's about 120 mirrors, Probably about 3,000 cherries. There are thousands and thousands of Swarovski crystals embedded in the walls.
Amid the deliciousness and lightness of the cakes, Cakeland visitors will notice some darker elements to the exhibition as they explore the gallery space. Although Hove says he has never made a real cake in his life, the artificial cakes he has created at Cakeland seem to strike a chord with visitors.
If you want to experience something random and surreal but accessible, this would be the place. It feels like you're inside cake, but in like a layered way. It's a very layered cake, that's what I would say. It's got different like dimensions to it.
It's awesome. There's so much level of detail here. The experience is very immersive, and it's just a beautiful experience.
The installation has continued to grow and expand since its founding in 2020.